Mhm.
Good evening, everybody. Do you hear me? Yeah. I stand before you today. As a humble host with the immense privilege of introducing a giant of the Palestinian national movement and one of the foremost authorities on the Palestinian right of return, Dr. Salman Abu-Sitta. Salman Abu-Sitta was born in 1937 in the Naqab village, Ma'in Abu-Sitta, a land that bore his own family's name between Gaza and Beersheba. Is the world's leading expert on the number, identity, whereabouts, and return of the roughly 8 million Palestinians in forced exile. He was born only 1 year after my father was born near Beersheba. عرب الهزيل يا دكتور Abu-Sitta. He lived through the Nakba in 1948, fleeing on foot as a child, first to Gaza and then to Cairo, after his village was destroyed by terrorist Zionists. As a young man, he studied engineering at the Cairo University, where he ranked first in Egypt. On graduating in 1958, he went to earn his PhD in civil engineering from the University College of London, or University College London, I guess they call it. After working in Britain, Canada, and Kuwait, he built a successful engineering firm in Kuwait, only to be forced into exile a second time in 1990, when at the outbreak of the Second Gulf War, Kuwait expelled its all Palestinian population. He was dedicated, or he has dedicated his life and life work to mapping Palestine in comprehensive detail, both before 1948 and in the present, documenting not only its villages and towns, but also the members and locations of those displaced then and now. Over more than 40 years of archival research, he has reconstructed a homeland that then the created Zionist state Israel began systematically to erase the local population and its villages. In 1997, he founded the Palestine Land Society. You can find it on the web, by the way, if you need information about this. It's called plants.org, which has since published a widely acclaimed series of atlases of Palestine covering the 19th, 20th, and 21st century. They are here. You can, afterwards, looking at these atlases. From this cartographic work, Dr. Abu-Sitta draws a striking political conclusion, because most of the land taken from Palestinians in villages and small towns remains unbuilt. Seriously. To this day, the vast majority of refugees could return to without displacing current residents. You remember Ali Abu Ni'ma last Tuesday? His family comes from Lifta, and when you take the highway, like let's say from Beersheba to Jerusalem, or from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, on the left-hand side of the highway, you will see Lifta. You will see the old houses there, covered with trees, but they are still there. So he argues, Abu-Sitta argues, that most of Israel's Jewish population is concentrated on a relatively small portion of the land, primarily around Tel Aviv, Haifa, and West Jerusalem, while large areas elsewhere are either militarized or used by kibbutzim and moshavim. These are kibbutzim, I think you know, moshavim, these are agriculture villages. He acknowledges that certain locations, particularly the densely built cities of Jerusalem and Jaffa, as well as a small number of villages, would require tailored solutions. For Dr. Abu-Sitta, the right of return is not only feasible, but essential. A just and lasting peace in the region depends on restoring both rights and land. That conviction is rooted in something intensely personal. His 2016 memoir, Mapping My Return, it's also here, and I will say something to it later. The first personal narrative in English to recount the Nakba in southern Palestine tells of a deep, abiding love for the land of his birth, a landscape overlooking Khan Yunis. We have their maps, then you can, we pinpointed the area there so you can see it there. And much of that land is now taken up by the Gaza envelope kibbutzim of Nir Oz, Magen, Nerim, Yad Mordechai, which briefly became world news when they were overrun on October 7th, 2023. That soil belongs to his extended family, and as he likes to say it, he in turn belongs to it. And to the family of my mother too, Dr. Abu-Sitta Al-Qarra. Dr. Abu-Sitta comes from a family that has played a significant role in Palestinian history and national life. His father, a prominent sheikh, built the local school and participated in all Palestine delegations that negotiated with Winston Churchill and the infamous Herbert Samuel and successive British Mandate administrations. His father also attended several of the Palestine Arab Congress held between 1919 and 1928. His brother Abdullah Abu-Sitta led the armed resistance in southern Palestine during both the Arab Revolt of 1938 and 1939. It's the period that the film Palestine 36 is talking about or dealing about, by the way. And the final defense of Palestine in 1947 and 49. His nephew, Dr. Ghassan Abu-Sitta, you may heard of, gained international recognition for his work as a surgeon in Gaza hospitals during the early months of the war on Gaza in 2023 to 2024, and today serves as a rector of the University of Glasgow. Along with Ibrahim Abu Lughut, Edward Said, Shafiq al-Hout, Khalil al-Wazir, and other leading figures of the Palestinian national movement, Dr. Abu-Sitta served on the Palestine National Council from 1974 to 1988. In Algiers, in 1988, he joined the minority there, including Edward Said and Ibrahim Abu Lughut, in voting against the Declaration of Independence and its political statement, which, in his view, conceded 80% of Palestine recognized the Zionist state of Israel and made the return of the refugees impossible. He has since continued his work internationally in support of the Palestinian right of return for many years through the Palestine Return Center in London. He gave, by the way, the key speech at the 2017 conference on Israel illegitimacy in Cork, Ireland, and most recently has been president of the Popular Conference for Palestinians abroad. Dr. Abu-Sitta has returned to Palestine in person only once in 1995. He traveled with his daughter Rania to walk among the ruins of the depopulated villages that he had spent a lifetime documenting and mapping. And today, we are proud that Dr. Abu-Sitta will join us, unfortunately, only virtually via Zoom. So, can you...
This presentation.
Yeah. Dr. Abu-Sitta, can you start with your presentation now?
Yes, thank you. Yes, I can. Yes, I can. I start
You
by...
are muted, doctor. Can you remute yourself?
Mute what?
Or demute yourself? Unmute.
Unmute. No. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Wait a second, doctor. We can't hear you.
I'm unmuted. Unmuted. I hope you can hear me. Tell me if you can hear me, please. I heard you while you are speaking.
That map over there, I put a pin at mine Abu-Sitta near Communists, and another pin where Dina comes from. They're very close to each other. And again, these books up here are just, you look at them today. But his autobiography, we ordered a bunch of copies which did not come yet. So if you want one of those copies already ordered, put your name and email here. Because this book, I have to say, it tells you everything. It's one person's personal journey, politically, personally, yeah.
That's good. That's not. Okay, audio machine. Mikrofon was weg. Warum sollte das da? Ja. Jetzt kommt's. Nee.
Can you hear me?
Oh, I hear you. Yes.
Can you hear me now?
I hear you.
Yes.
Do you hear me?
Yes.
Never
Shall I
mind.
speak?
Yes, please.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much for the invitation, and thanks to Palestine Café for this opportunity to speak to you, and thanks to my good friend Blake Alcott for initiating this, and thank you, Elaine, for the introduction. It's a pleasure to speak to you. Thank you for coming on this hot day. It will be my pleasure to talk to you and to thank you for your interest in this very important subject on the world affairs. I come to you from the land without a people. I'm invisible. I'm a ghost. I'm the invisible person who does not exist. Our land is empty, barren, desolate, waiting for the European Ashkenazis to come from Europe in order to populate my country, Palestine, and make it green. That is what you have heard. But what we have not heard, that this happened, and the event which should be remembered is the depopulating of 530 Palestinian cities and villages in 1948. And this, of course, could not have been done without a chain of war crimes and massacres in order to make this true. If you missed that in the last decades, you just have to see Gaza genocide to know what I mean. You, of course, know that the Zionist story, making the desert green, is false. Most of the world know this now, but few have the guts to speak. Fewer have the courage to act. But the Palestinians do have the courage to speak, and they also fight back, but of course, after a very heavy price. They have been doing it since Balfour for 100 years. Al-Ma'in is my own home in Palestine. It is not a fiction. It is displayed in maps by the Forensic Architecture in London for all to see. So do not let the Zionists cheat you anymore. This is a problem for somebody like Adela Reimer. She is a Russian woman who described herself as a huge Zionist. She immigrated from the Bronx and then immigrated again in 1975 to Palestine, to Kibbutz Nerim. Where is Kibbutz Nerim? It's right on my father's land. It's right on the place where I was born. She lives in my own place where I cannot today. My two daughters, Maysoon and Rania, who are born in Canada, are the first generation of 12 generations of my family who were not born at home. But as you well know by now, the European Ashkenazis attacked and depopulated 530 Palestinian towns and villages through a series of massacres. In this process, they made 9 million Palestinians refugees out of 15 million. You do not need history books to read about that, because Gaza genocide is splashed on the headlines everywhere. But I'm going to tell you something else, that Palestine was indeed empty for 2,000 years. It was empty of Ashkenazi Europeans. They never existed there. That is until the British mandate brought them. Then they arrived at our shores from Poland, Russia, Ukraine, as vagabonds in smugglers' ships under the protection of Balfour and the British treachery. I can tell you confidently that Palestine was always fully populated with 1,200 cities and localities whose names remain the same in use and as recorded in maps, including our atlases, in this century, and the last in 1877, in atlases 1596, even as far back as AD 313. So we are not new to this world. No European city, including those who deny our existence, can come close. I did not mention America. It was not even the chart. They tell you, the Zionists tell you, God gave them my land. I don't think God is a real estate agent. I don't think God is creator of evil deeds. The Zionists recruited God for their colonial project because they have no other legal way to say that. But the Zionist conquest of Palestine could not have happened peacefully. Jews, now call themselves Israelis, committed over 350 war crimes, including 95 massacres in Palestine. All are documented. You must have heard of one, Deir Yassin, but there are many, many others. Dawaima, Tantura, Safsaf, Ain al-Zaytun, and many others. The Zionists continued and improved the Nazi practice. The Nazi practice. I'll give you a startling example. 3 years after the forced labor camps in Germany were closed, the Jews in Palestine opened them in Palestine. In every village they occupied, every Palestinian village they occupied, they killed 50 up to 100 or more young men and carted them, thousands of them, to forced labor camps in Palestine. They were forced to carry ammunition, dig trenches, and bury the dead. The camp commanders in Palestine, the Jewish camp commanders, had German names. I spent days copying hundreds of ICRC Red Cross files in Geneva to document that. To tell you the truth, ICRC has visited only 5 camps, but my research have shown 15 forced labor camps established by the Zionists in Palestine for Palestinian captives, only 4 years after they were closed in Germany. This slide number 2, it shows you the creation of the direction of the expulsion of the Palestinian people from 530 cities and villages. Today, these 5 areas are the field of the operation of UNRWA. This expulsion proves this principle that we arrived at long time ago, that massacres committed by the Zionists, the Israelis, against the Palestinians were a weapon of ethnic cleansing. We need no more proof today if you see what happens in Gaza. The rule in Gaza, genocide, tells us what Israel wants us to know. If you do not leave your home, we will kill you. This principle is now clearly applied, as we know it was applied since 1948. So, as a result, the Palestinians have been dispersed in 5 different locations. In Palestine, 2 areas, in the West Bank and Jordan, Lebanon, and Syria. The refugee population today are 9 million, out of which 6 is registered by name with UNRWA. That is a total of 15 million Palestinians. This massive expulsion is what is known as a Nakba. That is the expulsion, the massacres, the ethnic cleansing, and the genocide of Palestinians in Palestine. But in spite of this dispersion and this calamity and disaster, we have a full record of those who are they and where they come from, and before and now. This slide shows this situation. We know everything about Palestinian refugees, where they are today and where they are from. Let me just remind you of a simple basic fact. Not a single Israeli occupant of our land has a legal title deed on the property he sits on. Not one. The Israeli settlers rent our land from the Israeli government. And therefore, We know and we have the title of every land taken by an Israeli settler today. But the answer to this disaster, this calamity, this crime, is the right of return, that we have the right to return to our homes. We have been claiming this since 1948. That is precisely 28,000 days so far. The whole world is with us, international law. The Great Return March of 2014 is an example of that. Crossing the barrier, electrified barrier in Gaza is a proof of that. There is no doubt that we have the right to return, and there is no doubt that we insist on implementing it. The international law supports us completely and constantly. Let me just give you a small example. The UN Resolution 194, which calls for the right of return, has been affirmed by the United Nations General Assembly more than 130 times, the longest in UN history. Now, here I say we have the international law to return, but we are also entitled to rebuild future Palestine. I, as an engineer and planner, spent many years doing that. We can rebuild future Palestine on the basis of international law. Here, this slide shows you something. Can we remove this here? No. Yes. Look at this slide. It's very informative. It shows that 80% of my occupied country, Palestine, by Israel, is still empty, The part which is used is only 12%, and I'll go over that in a minute. Next. We ask a simple question. What did the Israelis do with our land? This slide is very informative because it shows you what the Israelis did with 26,000 square kilometers of Palestine when they expelled us from our land and they used it for their own use. We have made a clear study of what Israel did with our land. On the left side, you can see 40% of our land is used by Israel for agriculture, shown in black. That's the area used. But the yellow shows the economic return of this land. This slide, this part of the slide, I would like you to think about it a little bit. 40% of our land is used by them for agriculture, but it produces only 1% of GDP, 1% of Israel GDP. The second one to the left, they use 5% of our land in order to produce almost 50% of the income from technical-based technology, technical-based industries. And the others are similar. So in clear terms, our land produces 1% of Israel's GDP, while 5% of our land produces 50% of Israel's GDP. So that if we take back our land, we can rent Israel 5% of our land to do their technical Silicon Valley industry, and there is no harm to anybody. Can we see the next slide? So this leads us to a simple set of facts. Please remember that. And every line here can be proved beyond any doubt. 90% of the Israeli population live in 77 localities out of almost 1,927 listed in the state of Israel. They only live 90% in 77, that's almost 7% of all localities, 90%. And the rest is empty, so we can return home. But over 90% of the land, as I say, remains vacant till today. And this vacancy represents the majority of Palestinian village lands who are expelled and made refugees, so they can return without any detriment to the settlers who came from Europe to take our land. And these facts pave the road for my research and others for the rightful owners to return with in application of international law and without damage to anybody. Can we see the next slide? This actually proves what I am saying, but in a different way. There are 927 localities, but only 15 of them, 15 of 27, 927, are cities more than 100,000 people. But the majority, which is almost 850, have only 500,000 people. This again proves the principle that the right of return is not only legal, is not only sacred to Palestinians, but also feasible completely. So if we now convince the kibbutz settlers to go back to Tel Aviv, they will not make a dent in Tel Aviv. But in so doing, they will clear so much of the refugee land so that it will allow the refugees to return peacefully. This is a very informative slide in 3 parts. Phase 1, if the kibbutz return to Tel Aviv, they will not make a dent there, but they will clear the land shown here in yellow, phase 1, which is the land of 9 million Palestinian refugees. Imagine if those kibbutz are closed and moved to Tel Aviv, the yellow area in phase 1 on the left will be available for Palestinian refugees from the West Bank, Lebanon, Syria, and Gaza to return almost walking to their homes. Now, phase 2, if the Israelis evacuate towns they created after 1948, the yellow areas will be clear for Palestinians to return. But this is a small potato. This is not a big thing. Phase 3, evacuating the cities Haifa and Jaffa is not necessary because in 1948, they were both mixed cities, and so the return of Palestinians to their old big cities will not cause a problem, neither to the Jews who live there, of course, nor to Palestinians. Can we go to the next slide? Now, this will really show us the problem we have in hand. Look at this part of Gaza Strip. This population density here is 8,000 persons per square kilometer. But now, in the last 2 years, when Israel attacked it, they moved them to a smaller section of Gaza Strip to a density reaching 20,000 persons per square kilometer. Now, 20,000 persons per square kilometer. Where is their land? Where is their land? Their land is just to the east of that, used by kibbutz, empty land under Israel, by kibbutz. The kibbutz density is 7 persons per square kilometer. Imagine 20,000 people in Gaza, their land is empty, occupied by settlers at 7 persons per square kilometer. What travesty, what injustice happening today. Next one. Now, if we allow or apply international law for Palestinians to return home, we have the task of reconstructing their destroyed villages. We as planners and engineers work this in great detail. So let me assume that Gaza refugees, who are 2.3 million Palestinians, return to their homes in the coastal part of Palestine within 0 kilometers. They can walk there. In doing that, we can rebuild the houses for 103 villages, all right, and covering population size of 500,000 people, and we can build houses for them, 100,000 units each, which is, in my experience as an engineer, is when the capacity, when the ability of very orderly contractors. We give each contractor a job to build 100,000 units, and they can do that in stages. And this can be done totally by Palestinian engineers and Palestinian labor without any help from anybody. And within a short time, all the refugees in Gaza can return home very peacefully and without any problem. We can repeat the same experience in other areas like the West Bank refugees and Syria and Lebanon refugees. So from this, we come to the conclusion, which we have shown many, many times and many years before, that right of return is sacred to Palestinians. They will never give it up. And it is legal by every instrument of international law. And as you can see, it is possible and feasible. Now I come to the conclusion. These are my thoughts in conclusion. My roots, like 15 million Palestinians, are deep in this land. That is well before those barbarians who landed at our shores. Those whom I call barbarians truly so, spilled the blood of 20,000 children in Gaza and made 16,000 children orphaned and made 12,000 children amputees. The list of crimes is endless. And those barbarians, they made Nagasaki, Hiroshima, and Auschwitz like a training ground. And those barbarians who were vomited by the West to our shores, they were cradled, supported, financed, and protected by the very same West in order to complete their evil deeds. Those barbarians who destroyed every sign of human civilization, schools, universities, hospitals, nurseries, mosques, churches, and homes. Those barbarians who created a new definition of the word evil, even not known before. Those barbarians who not only snuffed the innocent human life, but silenced the truth and punished those who speak about it. As you can see in Europe in many cases, they punish those who speak the truth. Those barbarians who followed the steps of their predecessors, the Crusaders, who 1,000 years ago waded in Jerusalem streets with the blood of our people up to their knees. And they still do that in Palestine. I say to them and to all those who support them, Palestine will triumph. Palestine will survive. Palestine will return home. Palestine will rebuild a monument of human endurance. Palestine will be an example of courage and humanity to the whole world. And I say, Palestine will be free from the river to the sea. Thank you for listening.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Abu-Sitta. My name is Dina. I was the person who represented you. I really want you to know something about me. Do you hear me?
Yes, I hear you, but I have a request to make. Do you hear me?
Yes, I do.
Yes. I have a request. The line here is very difficult and I may miss many things. So that if you would be kind enough to have few questions or short remarks, because the line is not very clear, and I don't want to treat you too much noise here.
No problem. I will give my best, okay?
Okay.
But, okay. I want you to know something about me. I came from, now it's called Rahat. It was Arab al-Hizayl. You know Arab al-Hizayl?
No, the sound is not very good. From what?
Arab al-Hizayl.
Harat al-Bayad?
Al-Hizayl. Sheikh al-Hizayl.
Yeah. Yes.
النقب.
Yeah. I can get.
Yeah, أنا من بيت أبو هاني.
أهلا.
I was born in Beersheba. Beersheba. I was born in Beersheba.
Oh, Beersheba, my hometown. Yes.
Exactly. So we are relatives.
Yes, indeed. Every Palestinian, by definition, is my relative.
Okay. But I love that. I have three questions, but since the sound is not good, I will reduce them to one question, okay? And then we'll give the opportunity to the others to ask questions. I want to read you something from Haaretz. It was in Haaretz about what, let's say, it was about, I will tell you right now.
Doesn't hear you.
Do you hear me? You still hear me?
I hear you, but not distinguishable.
Okay.
Maybe you can type the questions.
Here?
You can you be more here? Yeah, you can speak. Yeah.
You hear me better now?
No, back. Hold on. Yeah, yes.
You hear me better, okay. Haaretz, this is a liberal Zionist newspaper, wrote about, let's say, it's about 2 months ago, the following. I am translating from Hebrew. I do speak Hebrew, Dr. Abu-Sitta. I do speak Hebrew, yes. הציבור הישראלי מתחיל להפנים אילו זוועות חוללו צה"ל במלחמת העצמאות. Translated, that Israeli society is starting to know which atrocities they did in the occupied Palestinian territories since in 1967. In 1967, there they are writing, the Israeli military killed 300,000. They killed, displaced 300,000 Palestinians from Gaza, from West Bank. Okay, can you tell us about this second Nakba, the Nakse? Something.
Well, listing Israeli and Zionist crimes need many kilometers of records, because you have to understand one thing, that the elimination and genocide of Palestinians is an integral part of Zionism. It's by definition, Zionism means eliminating and extermination of all Palestinians, anytime. Now, you could say this is a very large statement. Let me tell you something which you all know. You know that from the 19th century, there is a notion in Europe that Palestine is a land without people, for a people without land. The corollary is that the people without land can take that land, because that land called Palestine is empty. There are no people there. Now you could ask yourself a simple question. How could anybody with any degree of knowledge in Europe in the 19th century, let alone 20th century, say that Palestine is an empty land? Well, you know very well, there are many travelers, many surveyors. Napoleon was there. The British sent a mission to Palestine for 4 years, Palestine Exploration Fund. They made 12 volumes about Palestine. And you ask, how come people say Palestine is a land without people, when we have so much evidence in Europe itself that they have recorded 1,200,000 villages, they drew things, they made surveys? The answer is very clear. You cannot deny it is not, it's not empty. But you say that Zionism will go to Palestine to make it Palestine Rhine, to make it without its people. So Zionism principle is based on the basic doctrine that we shall make Palestine without its people. We take the land without its people. And then, if you recall the early history of Zionism in Palestine, the massacres, Deir Yassin and so on, we have a list of 365. And the massacres were proven to be, even by Ilan Pape and others, massacres to be an instrument of ethnic cleansing. And so the idea, the notion that Palestine was without people was actually a plan to make it without people by Zionist invasion and massacres, which we see today. Now, you can see even simply in the Israeli children who are in the army, they say Palestinians don't exist, and if they exist, they should die. I don't want to elaborate on that, because doctrine is a disgrace to any people in the human race, to be done in today's world where we have TV, we have media and so on. But I can assure you that Palestinians will fight back all the time. As you can see in Gaza is a good example that Palestine will never wither away, although all the massacres will continue, and no surprisingly, if there could be even an atomic bomb dropped in Gaza, as some Israeli leaders say.
Thank you. You have, Blake has also a question.
Hello, Salman. Thank you very much again. I hope you can hear me. I am always impressed.
Now from the micro. The mic is there, I think you should.
Oh, okay. I am always impressed that in 1947, only 6% of Palestine was owned by the Jewish Agency and Zionist organizations. 94% was still in the possession of the native Palestinians. And I read in your book, you have also a plan how to restore ownership to the refugees. Could you say something about that? How to transfer title again to the Palestinian owners of the land from the ILA and other organizations?
Thank you very much. Thank you for this question. The figures are starting. They actually rake the imagination of any reasonable person. 96% of Palestine is owned by Palestinians, and even the 6%, most of it is owned Palestinians. And what we do, I mean, what we can plan to do, we create Palestine Land Administration, and we have records of the ownership of every Palestinian. When the refugees return to 530 cities and villages, we can create Palestine Land Administration, which will distribute the land back to each village and each town in proportion to their ownership before that. And we have no problem with that, because every village is composed of 4 to 5 large families, and they know each other, they are all related. So to return the ownership to any village is summarized in 4 or 5 large families, and the records are available. And what I am proposing actually is to create Palestine Land Authority, which will take back our land from the Israeli settlers and distribute it back almost exactly as it was before 1948. Let us remember that there was land department in Palestine during the British Mandate, which has record of every title deed for everyone. Now, in reverse, any Israeli settlers in the kibbutz today, or the moshav, they don't have any title deed. There is not a single Israeli today, except in the old communities, who have a title deed. They only rent our land from something called Israel Land Administration, which is translated to be Palestine Land Administration. So the kibbutz go to Israel Land Administration and say, can we rent so many dunams from Palestinian land? They give them a rent contract for 99 years. It was 49 years, and now they make it 99. So there is not a single Israeli who has a title deed to a Palestinian land. They all rent it from this government organization. So when we return, we just go to this department and say, give your records to Palestine Land Administration, and things will resort back to to its owners. I have studied cases of return to Bosnia and other cases like similar cases of conflict in Uganda, for example. I have found not a case simpler than the return of Palestinians to their land. We know who they are today. We know them by name. We know their ownership. We know where they come from. And it will be done very smoothly and with no great hardship, certainly no crimes to the settlers in our land. Nobody has seen our studies in the United States or the United Nations disputed the procedure we adopt for the return of property of Palestinians. In fact, there are actually studies which have made more than that, because it involves also intellectual property. It also involves historical sites. All this is very well documented. All what we need is push button to restore justice to Palestine, and that can only be done. Let us be clear about it. Zionism and the United States support must be eliminated. No future, no peace, no justice, no stability could happen if Zionism, as supported by the United States, can continue. Let us be clear about that. So, as it is the case of Second World War, when Nazism was abolished, Zionism must be abolished. This is a fact, indisputable fact.
Thank you. Fragen? Hat jemand eine Frage? Vielleicht hier kommen.
Drück hier einfach da.
Ja. Nein, ich glaube, Mikrofon ist da.
Yeah. Where?
Wieder einfach
Direkt.
da reden.
Yeah.
Mit dem Mikrofon.
Okay. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you. My question has to do with the empty lands that you showed us in the map. What kind of lands are those in terms of agriculture and future use?
The empty land in occupied Palestine, which is Israel today, as I have shown in the slide before, it is used by the army for training grounds and for factories and for uncultivated areas. 88% is still not used. They use it for maneuvers in the army. They use it as a space to do certain factories and remote areas. But it is not urban area. The urban area in Israel today is 4,000 square kilometers, which is, as I said, about 10 or less % of the area. Most of Israel today is used for other reasons than habitation. This is very clear. If you see a satellite map of Israel, you will find, and I have shown this in the yellow area just now, people live in an area which is 8 to 10% of Israel. But on the reverse side, this remained the area which is not used for human habitation. In Palestine, it was full of villages, and so they can return to the same area which is empty now and restore their villages there. Let me make a little propaganda. If anybody has time, see my Atlas of Palestine, 1917 to 1966. It is 700 pages, which shows all the details of that. Then we have another atlas called JNF, the land theft. It explains in detail how much land Jewish National Fund taken of Palestinian land and what they are using it for. We have analyzed 86 JNF parks built on Palestinian land today, run by JNF, Jewish National Fund, KKL. And in this atlas, we show each park of 86 and whose land it is taken from, which village it is, the name of the owners of this land, and where they live today in what refugee camp. And so this is a useful instrument, legal instrument, to sue Jewish JNF for stealing and using other people's property. Since JNF is registered in 55 countries in the world, this opens the possibility of suing JNF for stealing and using Palestinian property. We know the size of the property seized by each JNF park. We know the owners. And in fact, in Scotland, there has been a case in which Palestinians who acquired Scottish citizenship, they took JNF to courts in Scotland. And their case was absolute proof. They have shown they come from Ajur village near Jerusalem, and they said JNF built Britannia Park on our land, and they have taken it illegally. And the case was accepted by the court, but they said, finally, which is political answer, we have no jurisdiction in such cases. So the case in Palestine, ladies and gentlemen, I must assure you, is very well documented, and the law is very clear, and it is established in every possible forum. What is needed is the strengthened power to implement the law without veto from United States and from certain Western European countries. The law is there, the crime is well defined, the victims are known, but the justice is not applied yet.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for talking to us. I have a question about this country. Our government shamefully voted, our parliament and government shamefully voted not to recognize Palestine as a state, but we have some instruments to force a popular vote on this, and we are currently collecting signatures. So if the Swiss people were to force our government to recognize Palestine officially, I wonder what your opinion is. Is it an important sign that Palestine is not forgotten, or is there a risk that it cements an injustice?
Thank you very much for this question. You know, it's a very sad reflection on the situation in the Western world that you have to prove that Palestine exists and Palestinians exist. I mean, how can you not prove that? I mean, every instrument of international law says so. In the 1915 to 1917, when Balfour Declaration, infamous Balfour Declaration, was declared, it is clearly saying there is Palestine, and we are going to give the land of Palestine to Jews who have not arrived yet in Palestine. They are still in Europe. So how can you define that? How can you define the record of the existing Palestine? The only way that you could justify that is to say that Palestinians don't deserve to exist, and therefore we'll take their land from them and give it to somebody else. If that's the case, not only the case of racism, but the case of a crime against humanity. Now, I am at loss of words that there are so many knowledge about Jerusalem, about Bethlehem, about Nablus. I mean, no, every single place in Palestine is older than any other place in the world. And we have records from Ptolemais during the Greek time, and my own place in Al-Ma'in, we have a historical monument called Sheikh Nuran. It turned out that this Sheikh Nuran is reincarnation of the 5th century place of Saint Hilarion in Byzantine times. In my own place, I used to play there. Byzantine time, 5th Saint Hilarion was a monastery in the 5th century. So what can we say? What we can say that Palestinians will never give up, and this atrocity of eliminating Palestine and Palestinians will be a black spot in the history of Europe until it is cleaned up. It can only be cleaned up by justice restored back to Palestinians, and I'm sure it will come. Thank you, Elaine. Thank you. Do you hear me? Thank you.
Yes, yes, I do.
Hello.
Hello?
So you said that in order to have an effective return plan, the support of US must end. The support of the Zionists must end. Do you think the election and now the first action of Zoran Mandami can be a beginning of a new shift, or do we need something bigger and stronger, or I don't know, how can this support?
Sorry, could you repeat the last sentence again?
Yes, in order to end the support of North America,
Yes.
of the Zionist movement, do you think that Zoran Mandami is the first step in this direction, or what is necessary in order to do so?
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you very much. I have long believed in a principle, and I wrote about it many times. The greatest enemy of Zionism is the truth. They lived and prospered when the truth was killed or absent. The truth now cannot be killed anymore. And with the media, and I should say, with the spirit of young people around the world, in universities, in cities, who fill the streets of the whole world, up to Japan and Australia, calling for free Palestine. This is unprecedented. I am old enough to know that when I say Palestinians, they say, where is Palestine? What is Palestine? So the truth has arisen. The truth has come back. and it is very difficult to parade the lies and deception which the Zionists have spread. So partial answer to your question, when more truth is known, when Zionists cannot hide the truth anymore, they cannot anymore threaten those who speak the truth, when Zionists not anymore cannot fire journalists who speak the truth, when Zionists not anymore can put to jail or vilify and give bad names to anyone who speaks the truth will prevail. All what we need, Palestinians, all what we ask is the truth be known. We don't want to deceive anybody. We just want to say truth must be known. And I'm a great believer that great Zionism is the greatest enemy of truth, but they are losing the battle, as you can see. I hope they will lose more battles, and that truth will prevail. Truth will make everyone free. When you know the truth, you decide what you want to do. You want to side with the killer or with the victim. But when the truth is hidden, or if you speak the truth, you are fired from your job, or you speak the truth, you are given bad names, then civilization will have a downturn, and we should really fight against that. Truth makes us free, and anyone who hides the truth is a criminal, which should not be allowed to happen.
Salman, it's Blake again. Can you hear me?
I hear you, but
Okay, good.
I think we are almost there.
Okay. Yes, almost finished. I have a political question. I would like to know how it was in Algiers in 1988. That was a defining moment for Palestinians, for the PLO, for the PNC. You were a member. You were there with Edward Said and others. I think 46 of you voted against, I call it selling out, which led to Oslo 5 years later. Can you tell us a little bit about that political decision and why it was wrong?
You know the story of King Solomon, who was presented with the case that two women are fighting over a baby, and he said, all right, we will cut the baby in half, and we give each woman one half. One of the women rushed and cried, no, don't do that. Give the baby to the other woman, even it is mine. This is the case of Palestine. They wanted to cut it into two pieces and give half of it, more than half, 54%, to immigrants who came from smuggler ships in Europe. And the Palestinians said, why do you give 54% of my home to somebody who just arrived in smuggler ship? We cannot accept that. And therefore, partitioning Palestine was not accepted by the people who will lose half of their country, and it was accepted by those who have no place in Palestine. They were happy to have half of the country. This is an exact replica of the story of the two women about dividing the child.
Any further questions? Yes. Please, can you come here?
I have a concluding word.
Just a second. Yes.
Du musst ganz nah fahren.
Okay, so my concern, actually Israel has been,
Einfach nicht ganz nah.
okay, Israel has been, still is an interesting market for any different industries.
Put the microphone right to your mouth. Eat it. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, Israel is and has always been an interesting market for many different industries in Western Europe. It can be weapon manufacturing, surveillance technology, fence building, construction work. I can continue to count. How can we break this cycle? How can BDS be effective and bring down to the knees Israel?
He is asking about the boycott movement, especially towards the industries of the Israelis. Did you hear the question, Doctor?
Could you say it again, please?
He's asking to the BDS, boycott, divestment,
Okay, okay.
how can this help?
I got it.
Thank you.
I got it.
Not only industries in Israel, I speak also industries that in our country, Switzerland, Germany, whatever, yeah, that collaborate with Israel and it's genocide.
Well, BDS movement is the conscience of the world, the conscience of the people who do not accept injustice. And it is a great movement, and it represents the pure conscience of the people who do not like to see a crime and do not support it. However, BDS movement remains a matter of conscience. It does not have arms. It does not have strength, except, of course, if it grows much larger. What we should trace in the case of Palestine, who is benefiting from the destruction of Palestine and the rise of Israel on the land of Palestine? This is where you should attack the issue. Who is benefiting from that? And as you well know, there are many companies who are benefiting from the use of Palestinian land. And on the reverse side, I think every person with good conscience, he can do as much as possible to boycott any Israeli product or activity. It is growing. It should not be underestimated. In my time, when I was studying in London, that was very difficult. But now, when we have a conference about that, and we have a movement about that, we find a lot of people coming forward and supporting us. The reason is very simple. Truth, it became known. And therefore, I would suggest that we should never give up our trial to make truth known. Although it is a long road, but all the history tells us that. South Africa case, Algeria case, and all other cases. I know that the case of Israel and Zionism is deeply rooted with much strength in economics and politics and all that, but there is an old rule in history that justice has long life and injustice has a short life, and we should always make justice prevail. I hope all your efforts today will help in that direction.
Thank you very much, Dr. Abu-Sitta. Thank you very much. You said you're gonna do a remark or a conclusion. You can go for it now because we are done with our questions.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And just one last word. If anyone would like to get our products like Atlas of Palestine, Map of Palestine, We have it in Arabic, English, Spanish, and Russian. We will be very glad to supply you free of charge with the Atlas of Palestine and all these applications. Just give us your address, full address, telephone number, and we'll send it by DHL. We'll be very glad to send you a complimentary copy of that. And thank you for the night and for your efforts tonight. Thank you very much.
Is your address on the homepage?
The best way to send me info. Are you listening? Info
Yes.
at
Yes, I'm listening.
Yes, I'm
Info.
listening. Yeah.
info at PLands, P for Palestine, lands, LANDS.org. Info at PLands.org.
Okay, I have it. Thank you so much. I have
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you so much. مع السلامة دكتور. مع
Thank you.
السلامة.
Thank you.
مع
Thank you very
السلامة.
much.
فاضية.
Thank you. Thank you.